so damn hot. Milk was a bad choice. Figured I'd do an update talking about some 2018 releases. As mentioned last update, I haven't been as fervent with picking up everything that I can. Just going after some of the heavier hitters, bands that I knew had good material previously, had a bit of a reputation for themselves, and pretty much this entire stack I'm very pleased with. Actually only 9 releases. I think I said a dozen last update that I picked up this year that came out in 2018. Looks like we've only got 9, so, you know, I think probably most of these have been talked about, but I wanted to give my own spin, you know. Not sure if I have too much new to add to the conversation, but let's go for it anyway. We got Tomb Mold, Manor of Infinite Forms here. Came out on 20 bucks spin. Canadian band. I really like the release from last year, Primordial Malignity. This is a lot more different sounding than I thought it would be. Primordial Malignity had to my ears, a very strong kind of Cannibal Corpse meets Scandinavia kind of vibe, particularly with a really present bass tone. And the bass tone is really great on this, but it's just less upfront in the mix. Great rumbly, organic sounding, double bass, loud drums. Very heavy but catchy kind of stuff. The riffs have a lot of meat in the front end and seem to finish with a good lick. There's almost kind of a groove-oriented kind of orientation to a lot of the riffs. Very catchy. I really like the main riff off the title track. Does that great slow riff with blast beats behind it kind of thing at one point. Great riff building, great song structures. I would say to anybody that likes sledgehammering, you know, 90s death metal that's heavy and has a fair amount of slow to it, like Azvix, Bolt Thrower, a lot of the Finnish stuff, Demigod, Funebra, shit like that. Not a sound-alike to any of those, but seems to draw its own unique kind of approach from all those influences. Very, very good. Let's say the hype is worth it. And then the Skeletal Remains. I believe this is the 3rd record by this band from LA. This was on Dark Descent. All these came out quite a while ago, like beginning of the year. Or the next couple anyway. 3-piece. Awesome fucking recording. It calls to mind a lot of great stuff. Thrashy death metal in particular. You know, we're talking 89 to 91. Early Pestilence, Consuming Impulse, Solstice from Florida, Arise by Sepultura, a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a pretty good kind of James Murphy influence to the lead guitar style. There's some Death, the band, in there as well, but insanely great riffs. I need to dig back into their catalog now that I've explored these guys. Fucking fantastic release if you like thrashy death, deathy thrash, whatever you want to call it. Fantastic. Then the second Torture Rack record here, Malefic Humiliation, also came out on 20 bucks spin. I fucking love this. A big appeal to me is the very caveman-like approach to the drumming. There's a lot of fast drumming, but it's that really simplistic 1-2 blast kind of thing, the almost like oompa beat kind of deal going on. It's got a lot of very reminiscent of when death metal started to get brutal. You know, a lot of people make the comparison to the first couple of Cannibal Corpse records. I would also throw Rotravor in there, Infestor, stuff like that. Infestor, who are from the same region of the country as these guys, I think, the Pacific Northwest. I liked their first record. This is a big step up to me in songwriting. There's some great fucking riffs on here. Also, like Tomb Mold, they do that kind of more groove-oriented, a little bit more than your average death metal riff kind of thing, particularly on track 4 on this. Fucking really, really good. It's got a definite serial killer slasher film vibe to it. You can just almost see the garden shed with the tools and the hacked up bits of human meat in it. Fucking great. Very, very early release from this year, Ataraxy, Where All Hope Fades. I think this was just out in January of this year, maybe February. Band from Spain. This is their sophomore full-length, if I'm not mistaken. Dark Descent Records. A lot of people call this a doom death record. I suppose it fits that description fine. because it's death metal and it has a lot of slow parts. There goes the booklet. To me, it has more of a simmering to a boil approach as far as being slow. It's got a slow build, you know, like a good horror flick. It doesn't really reek of misery or depression like a lot of doom-oriented metal genres do. And when this band goes into full throttle death metal mode and plays mid-tempo to fast, they really, really fucking kick out the jams, and it's fucking wonderful. There's a lot of, like, kind of simmering arpeggios that almost bring to mind, like, just the song Seasons of the Abyss by Slayer. Kind of a weird comparison, I suppose, but I get that vibe a lot. I get a very, like, expansive, like, deserty kind of foreboding sort of vibe from this for one reason or another. Maybe it's the part that reminds me of Seasons in the Abyss. Maybe it's the cover art. Maybe it's the fact that these guys are from Spain. Not sure exactly why, but it's just, you know, I get the feeling of being stalked across the desert by those little hooded guys from Phantasm, you know, in that one scene. Anyway, that's not an esoteric enough description for you. I don't know what is. Then we got Ghastly with Death Velour. Finnish band, out of the ashes of some doom band. I'm trying to remember their name. Read it somewhere. Garden Worm, I think. You can see a little bit how this band used to be a doom metal band. I don't even know what kind of doom metal band, whether it was funeral or what sub-micro genre of doom that band was. This band also is very good at creating a mood. I don't really care for intro songs that much, but the intro to this, The Awakening, has a real weird, almost kind of Italian horror, sort of giallo kind of vibe to me, with like this weird offbeat pounding and like creepy piano. It really fucking sets the mood appropriately for once, as far as intros go. And this band utilizes twisting, kind of creepy melodies quite a bit. Varying range of death metal vocals from high to low. It's almost got sort of a proggy feel that I really enjoy. Just a very kind of insidious, ominous sort of thing going on with it that I dig the hell out of. When they do pick up the pace, it goes in sort of a really kind of Scandi, you know, almost like punk style fast drum beat on a lot of it, and I fucking dig it. Stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit. This is Echoes from the Seven Caves of Blood by Byyrth. San Francisco black metal band, raw black metal band. Seems like they're taking a lot of influence from LLN stuff. I'm not the biggest LLN guy. I've listened to some Mutilation here and there and a few other bands. Speaking of Mutilation, Maniac from Mutilation guest vocals on 2 of the songs. Vampiric War Children and Abhorrence Aeons, whatever. Good stuff. It's they kind of run the gamut as far as tempos and sort of moods and shit that they're creating on this. It is very noisy and raw, but somewhat contained. I'd say if you know, a lot of raw black metal or LLN stuff is kind of too harsh on the ears for you, maybe this band's for you, because a lot of that stuff is too harsh on the ears for me a lot of the time. And these guys kind of pull it into a more reined kind of context. The vocals are very harsh, very distorted, but put in the mix in such a way that it's palatable. Their placement in the mix, I guess. Very upfront, but not killing you. And what I like in this band is when they kind of pick up the pace a little bit, when they play faster. They have that great sort of almost kind of punkish early 90s black metal kind of straightforward charging kind of deal. The second song, Call of the New Legion, has almost like a butt-rocking, like straight up, like could be at home in a new wave of British heavy metal kind of riff, which I like a lot. That's my hot track on this. That and Shattered Soul, the last track, which is just a fully untethered fucking rager of a black metal song. But cool band. You know, I don't really fuck around with music like this too much, and I was definitely happy with this. It's over quickly. It's over in less than a half an hour. The Torture Rack full length is also maybe 35 minutes, and I love short albums. Finally, we've got the latest from Panopticon. I only picked up the first half of this record. Listened to them both. I think, on Spotify before I pulled the trigger. I do like part 2, the pure folk album. I do plan on picking it up at some point, but wanted to spend money on other things. Wasn't really feeling like a pure folk album at the moment. I do plan on getting it because it is good, but I wanted to pick up the more black metal of the two. So this is The Scars of Man, The Once Timeless Wilderness Part 2. Not something committed to memory at the moment. But, you know, I'm new to Panopticon from the past, like, year or so. Definitely a project worthy of the praise that it receives, in my opinion. This seems to me to be a lot more, I want to say straightforward, because there's a lot of lush instrumentation, lots of additional instrumentation with violins and all kinds of other instruments. It still very much has that kind of Cascadian feel, you know, that Austin's known to do and loved for. But it seems to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more fast in it, a lot more fast passages. There's a little bit more pronounced, I feel, like classic heavy metal vibe in it, with some kind of melodic kind of riffing and stuff like that. You know, it's tough because it's this. Anybody could talk about this record for a full 45-minute review or something. Maybe not 45, but at least 10-minute review, because there's so much to it. It's very dense and layered music. I do like it quite a bit. My favorite's probably still Kentucky, but I'm still familiarizing myself with a lot of their material. A Ridge Where the Tall Pine Stood is one of the few pure folk tracks on it. That and the intro. The rest of it's mostly straightforward black metal. I really like that track. This kind of like dark folk acoustic guitar with spoken word and a very deep voice over it. Kind of calls to mind Boyd Rice and Death and June's Alarm Agents. I have a feeling the writer of this music probably wouldn't be too happy with that comparison, maybe. But it just kind of rings of that to me a little bit. Probably just because it has acoustic guitar and a guy in a deep voice talking. But at any rate, fucking really, really good record. I got some tapes. One of the best of the year. I feel this is going to be on a lot of lists, a lot of number ones for a lot of people. Moenen of Xezbeth, Ancient Spells of Darkness. On Nuclear War Now, came out a couple of months ago. As far as I know, it's only available on cassette at the moment. I'm sure it'll see vinyl and CD release eventually. Simple J card, white shell, fucking soft window. Not gonna get into it, man. Hate the soft window. And it's following the demo from last year. Fantastic, very raw black metal with a mystical, occult kind of vibe. You know, I think those are the buzzwords associated with it the most. I will say, beyond that, it's transcendent as a motherfucker. There's some excellent bells and just like keyboards on it that are purely hypnotizing. You know, it's not even hyperbole. You know, it's trance invoking what this band does with the music that they write. The production is deliberately raw. You know, deliberately kind of capturing that late 80s sort of demo quality stuff. Kind of harkens to, you know, a lot of people say the Samael demos. Certainly not a sound-alike. Doesn't really sound that much like them to me. Greek stuff, you know, that kind of mid-paced, riffy, but kind of melodic, entrancing sort of black metal. And it is very, very, very fucking good. Recommend it to everybody who likes Perverted Ceremony, you know, early Samael, early Greek stuff. Finally, we have my favorite album of the year so far, and unless Necrofilth records something by December, it's probably going to stay there. This is Theater of Morbidity by Bone Sickness. Unfortunately, this saw a very limited release, 100 copies, which is a crying shame to me. It seems like the members of the band don't seem interested in doing anything more than that. Judging by their social media presence, you know, they were really hyped to record this, got it done, and decided to break up the band. That's what I gathered from a couple of members of the band posting stuff on Facebook. Like I said, it's a crying shame. I think it's available on Bandcamp. It's widely available, you know, on Soulseek and stuff like that. Tapes are gone. I put in my order as soon as it went up. Anyway, enough about rarity. The music is pretty much one of my favorite very small contained sounds, micro subgenres, which is the very beginnings of death metal. You know, talking particularly Repulsion, Terrorizer pre-World Downfall, early Napalm Death, Slaughter, that kind of stuff, especially Repulsion. This has a little bit more going on than just worshiping a certain era, worshiping a certain sound. It very much sounds like Repulsion in a lot of spots, particularly with the drumming. You know, it's got that great 1-2 blast, the single bass drum blast beats going on a lot. Very short songs, almost sort of a crossover, sort of in spirit kind of deal. Not unlike Cryptic Slaughter here and there. There's elements of it where the tempo changes are too extreme to be a straight up Repulsion clone. It almost kind of harkens to like maybe a few power violence bands here and there. But it's catchy as hell. It's riddled with tons of really, really funny sound clips, samples, which also make me think of a lot of power violence stuff. And it's just all out a rager of a fucking tape. If you can find it somewhere, pick it up. Hopefully the band members will have a change of heart and release more copies, because it's my favorite record this year. So check it out. I think it's probably on YouTube. I don't know. I haven't looked. You're on YouTube. Why don't you look? That's about it. We're listening to Sheer Terror, by the way. Sheer Terror is great. Talk to you later.